Hey, Foot Clan, it is not too late. What am I talking about here? The Ultimate Draft Kit.
Ultimate Draft Kit.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Mike. The Ultimate Draft Kit is out. If you've got a draft coming up this weekend, you got to get it. Go to ultimatedraftkit.com. Prep yourself up. We got 2 big drafts coming up this weekend, and we shall be ready. Are you?
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
1 week. 1 week till Brooklyn. Football. That's what it is. 1 week till football.
Way to kick off the show with a strong joke. Ha ha ha!
Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy Holloway, Mike the Fantasy Hitman Wright, Jason Moore is here. We are ready to go. It's going to be a great episode. Going to be answering some key questions about the 2017 season for your fantasy teams. And we've got Fantasy Court today. Judge Giamatti making an appearance. We're going to have some highly debated topics, some accusations presented. You guys ready to rumble?
Always.
Some crimes.
Really quick update on the Zeke
crimes.
situation. Adam Schefter came out this morning. He tweeted that there's a likelihood that the suspension would be reduced. I'm always amazed. Like, there's a lot of vitriol on the old Twitter when it comes.
You're amazed that the
Well, I guess I am a little bit shocked at the sides that are being taken on the Ezekiel Elliott argument. A lot of people think, look, he says he's innocent, so he's going to fight regardless of the reduction. I think if it goes down to 3 or 4 games, he may just take it.
no clue.
I think that's the hope.
But if you're innocent, if he believes he's innocent, then he
absolutely.
doesn't want to accept a punishment for something he didn't do. But let's say it goes down to 4 games, he takes it. Is he a second-round pick?
He's a steal out of second-round pick. Then
Those 2 games make a difference between you wanting to take him in the 3rd round
absolutely.
and you wanting to take him in the 1st?
I would, man, if it's a 4-game suspension and I'm in the back of the first where those tiers have dropped out, where the running back 1 and the elite tier 1 of both running back and wide receiver have fallen out, I would strongly consider taking him.
Do you want DeMarco Murray or Ezekiel Elliott suspended 4 games?
DeMarco.
That's really, really tough. I think I would.
A lot of
I might
decisions
take
out
Zeke.
there right now.
Yeah, I think there's about 8 running backs that are in and of themselves, so long as they don't get injured. We are expecting them to be workhorse quality fantasy running backs. I will take that group of running backs before I'll move to Zeke, but I'll take Zeke immediately after those guys.
Jordan
if the
Howard.
suspension is down. Jordan Howard would be the 9th to me.
Okay,
so I would take Zeke before Jordan Howard.
All right, 1 week till real football, guys. 1 week. Tomorrow.
Very exciting.
Tomorrow is the MVP episode.
World famous.
We have a number of experts that basically give us their MVP picks for the fantasy football season, and there are a lot of things that factor into what makes a fantasy football MVP. And it comes down to, look, are you going to get 10 times the value for a player? Those are the predictions. Who do we think you can draft later or in the mid-tiers, and they become the MVP of your fantasy football team? So we have
last year we had Nando DeFino giving us Terrell Pryor, which seemed ludicrous.
Yes, it did.
True. And it was pretty good.
And now he's a 3rd-round pick.
So we'll have Brad Evans, we'll have Chris Meany, Ben Cummins, we'll have a number of Mayo should be back on it. Jake Seeley, tons of experts are going to drop us their picks. We're going to give you our fantasy MVP picks. It's going to be an awesome episode tomorrow. Do not miss it. Also, if you have not entered to win an autograph David Johnson helmet, we are giving that away. Basically, I think we're going to give it away on Thursday when the NFL season kicks off. So there's a week left to enter at footclangiveaway.com. You don't want to miss your chance at that sweet David Johnson helmet. Anything else going on, you can follow us on Twitter. We'll let you know, at the FF Ballers. Now, I got to make sure. Judge Giamatti, do you have the robe on? Are you prepared?
Is the robe on?
Yeah.
Well, you got to be in a judge robe to judge such.
Well, he
real
always
cases.
but he
not a
always wears
bathrobe.
it. He always wears the robe. So if you're saying the robe is off, then someone's nude.
Wait, judges don't wear anything under the robe?
No, never.
Okay.
Not Judge Giamatti.
Not Judge Giamatti. All right, let's go to court.
The Fantasy Court with Judge Giamatti.
Plaintiff Mike Wright is charging defendant Andy Holloway with reception denial to wide receiver Golden Tate.
Thank you. Lovely people of this court, including the most handsome of all, Judge Giamatti.
I like to see you change your strategy already. Proceed.
Look, he's so devastatingly handsome, but I will try to proceed with my argument. Look, ladies and gentlemen, Golden Tate joined the Detroit Lions in 2014. That's 3 seasons. In those 3 years, he has played every game. He has had at least 90 receptions in every one of those seasons. In 2 of those years, he's over 1,000 yards. And in 2 of those seasons, he's been a top 20 wide receiver. Wide receiver 13 in 2014 and wide receiver 19 last year. All 3 of those years, the Detroit Lions have been a top 12 or better passing offense. Golden Tate gets to slide right back in to where he's even more comfortable, even more devastating coming out of the slot. He is the primary read for Matthew Stafford and this top 12 passing attack. So to deny Golden Tate his rightful place as one of the premier pass catchers in the NFL with 90 receptions every single year he has played with Matthew Stafford, who is now also the highest paid man in the history of the NFL. I think it is egregious and erroneous on all accounts to deny Golden Tate of his reception abilities.
All right, look, I appreciate the fact you started with tremendous flattery. It's one of the things necessary for your argument.
Now, to give a lay of the land here, Mike has him at wide receiver 17. Andy, you have him at wide receiver 28.
Sure.
This is
It's
the case.
egregious.
Look, Your Honor, Judge Giamatti, not every reception is created equal. My opponent just outlaid pretty much a perfect situation for Golden Tate. And look, he flaunts the big reception totals. I'm glad he did. I expected him to do so, but that doesn't make him consistent, Judge Giamatti, does it? Lots of receptions. My grandmother had 1,000 yards in the NFL last year, so that doesn't really make.
She
him,
is a very talented lady.
She's very talented. Look, Your Honor, you cannot expect me to entrust my fantasy roster with a player who's finished as a wide receiver 1 or 2 31% of the time as a 1 or 2. So you can give me those sexy end of year numbers, but 31% of the time I'm happy, and the other percentage of the time I'm not happy. This is not a player that you can trust week to week in that role. You've got Marvin Jones and Galladay and Ebron and Riddick all involved in the red zone, and that's an area where, look, Golden Tate does not excel, and we cannot accept massive touchdown totals. So basically, look, if he doesn't score, he's going to litter your roster with wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5 numbers, and I like being happy more than 31% of the time, and therefore I am more than happy to deny Golden Tate his rightful spot on my roster. Judge,
Do we have a gavel?
I think we do have a gavel, but whether I can
Sorry about that. I found my gavel over here.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
The court rules in favor of the defendant, Andy
Oh,
Holloway.
You're welcome.
which is against both you and I, Mike. I will say this. I think some of the consistency numbers of Golden Tate are misleading, because what happened last year was the beginning of that year when they were trying to force feed the ball to Marvin Jones. Golden Tate was gone. He disappeared. So
Is that in his favor that he was gone for 5
no,
weeks?
I'm saying I don't expect that chunk of stylistic games where Golden Tate is not involved to be a thing. It wasn't like, mixed in through the season. It was from then on out he was very consistent. So
the court has already ruled.
all right,
and we're going to go
let's
ahead.
get another sweet
We're going to
drop.
move on.
Plaintiff Jason Moore is charging Mike Wright with fabrication of false evidence and ranking wide receiver Demaryius Thomas below his actual floor. What say you, Mike?
No.
I'm the
You have to
defendant.
argue first, Jason.
Let me tell you what I say, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. So here's the thing. Andy and I both have Demaryius Thomas ranked as the wide receiver 12 right now. You have him at 19. So we're not talking about a huge gap here, but I think the real issue is that you are ranking him below what.
Address the court, please. Address the court. Do not address the defendant directly.
Thank you, lawyer.
Never look
of
me
Mike
in the
Wright.
eyes.
All right, Judge Giamatti. The issue here is that Demaryius Thomas is safe. Demaryius Thomas has a floor that is, I mean, when you talk floor, you're talking about what's the lowest they're going to finish. And I believe Mike Wright has him ranked as kind of, when we rank, we do that average, that median. This is around where they'll finish. I think he has him ranked below where his floor is. And here's the case. Demaryius Thomas is a career wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. Now, I understand that the Peyton Manning evidence is inflammatory and intended to cause prejudice. Okay, we can throw that out. I mean, sure, 3 great years with Peyton Manning where he finished as the 5th best wide receiver, the 1st best wide receiver, and the 2nd best wide receiver in fantasy football. He doesn't have Peyton Manning anymore. But you cannot deny that Demaryius Thomas himself has the talent to finish as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football because he's done it. He just doesn't now have the quarterback to get that done. However, we cannot throw out that final year of Peyton Manning, and we cannot throw out Brock Osweiler, the worst quarterback that has gotten play in the NFL in recent memory. During that year where Brock was better than Peyton Manning, he finished as the wide receiver 11. So he was still a wide receiver 1 during that time. And then last year you come into a season where you didn't know who was going to be the starting quarterback. They didn't have him on the roster. They were expecting to have Brock Osweiler, but Brock Osweiler went to Texas, and they had to fall on a previous draft pick in the 7th round, a guy who had only played 1 snap in the NFL before. So for all intents and purposes, he was a rookie. His 1 snap was to kneel the ball down. Okay, that's all Trevor Siemian had ever done. Trevor Siemian comes down, and Demaryius Thomas in that first year with a 7th round quarterback finishes as the wide receiver 16. Okay, so this is his floor. Now he's got a 2nd year with Trevor Siemian, who's been named the starter. And over the course of the year, I mean, they've got a better offensive line, a year with the same system. I believe Demaryius Thomas is one of the safer players. He doesn't provide injury risk. He doesn't have team risk. He doesn't have suspension risk. He is pretty safe, and he does have the upside to get it done. So that is my case for Demaryius Thomas, one of the safer wide receivers in fantasy football.
If I wanted safety, I'd strap on a flotation device and I would lock myself in a room and I would hide and I would cower in a dark closet like the plaintiff, Jason Moore, who wraps himself in his blankie at night and says, "Oh, I'm so safe.
It's a soft blankie.
I'm so safe." I, in fact, may have to countersue at the end of this for living in the past, living in those. I like how it's like, well, we can't use the Peyton Manning evidence, but I'm going to throw it in there anyways.
Ha ha!
I mean, absolutely,
you didn't object.
Absolutely ridiculous. Good Peyton Manning is not coming back. We have evidence that Demaryius Thomas and really all wide receivers, they need a top-level quarterback. Trevor Siemian is a 7th-round pick. He's not moving up from 18 passing touchdowns to the mid-20s to the low 30s. It's just not in the realm of outcomes for Trevor Siemian. He's fine. He's fine. But that's not going to get you wide receiver 1 numbers. Last year, or 2015, bad Peyton Manning, bad Brock Osweiler year. The reason why Thomas was able to finish at least respectably was because of the 105 receptions. He dropped back down to 90 last year, and Demaryius Thomas, he's fine, but he's a 90 reception type of guy, and he's not going to be anywhere near double-digit touchdowns, which is what you need to be a wide receiver one. There are very few wide receivers who can live as a one with just 5 or 6 touchdowns. You're talking Julio Jones. And Demaryius Thomas is not in a Julio Jones situation.
What do you say, Judge?
The court rules in favor of the defendant.
Yes.
Malarkey.
Yes.
All right, we got one more.
Absolutely
One more on the board.
ridiculous. Plaintiff Andy Holloway is charging defendant Jason Moore with conspiracy to create a wide receiver 3 out of a wide receiver 2.
Oh, Your Honor. Your Honor. Look, this argument is simple. Mike's already talked extensively about his love for Martavis Bryant. It's time that I took the stand and pronounced the truth, and the truth is this: the time for fear and trepidation, Your Honor, it's over. The time for hesitation and caution, Your Honor, it is done. Your Honor, I am charging the defendant with a conspiracy to call Martavis Bryant what he just plain isn't. Here's the way that you approach ranking Martavis Bryant. You either take him off the board because you're scared, or you place him where he belongs, inside the top 20. A neutral and offensive rank of 32 is an affront to all that is good in the world and all that is good for a fantasy football roster. Martavis combines size, skill, speed, and dare I say sauciness.
Dare.
That's right. I dare say that. And if he's healthy and reinstated, we need to pull our heads from the sand and accept the bounty of fantasy points coming our way. And I don't think the defendant's doing that. So don't try to make him what he isn't. You either take him off your board or give him what he deserves. Your Honor, I rest my case.
Well, I can see some of that point. If he's healthy and reinstated, that's great. Oh, wait a minute. Breaking news, he is currently not actually reinstated yet for regular season football. But who cares? So what? I believe, Judge, that in order to get fantasy points, you have to play in the games. And yes, when he plays, ceiling is there for sure. But he must play to produce value. His numbers are good, except the one that says that he's only played in 24 of the last 54 games, 23 due to suspension and 7 due to injury, whether it was his AC joint or the knee sprain.
I object because I don't like those stats.
There is risk
Overruled.
with
Thank you.
There is risk with Martavis Bryant that says we need to lower him. Now, my inflammatory prosecutor here would say that you should take him off your board if there's risk. I would say that's bad fantasy football advice. Good fantasy football advice is to realize risk and move him to a place in the draft where you think the risk is worth the reward. So let's talk the reward. What is the upside here with Martavis Bryant? My colleagues would have you say it's a wide receiver 1, because have you seen how he can jump down the field in like 3 strides and he's 60 yards down the field and catch a touchdown with his butt? Because I've seen him before, and it makes you think this guy is a wide receiver 1, except the reality is Big Ben has only in his long storied career ever supported 2 wide receiver 2s. I'm talking top 24 wide receivers once in his career. That was in 2009, and it's not like he hasn't had the opportunity to do it with Emmanuel Sanders and Mike Wallace and Antonio Brown. If you look at 2015 when he played, 3 of his 6 touchdowns were brought on by Landry Jones. The 16-game pace with Ben Roethlisberger would have been a grand total of 5 touchdowns. Now, we've seen more than that. The year before, he got more than that from Big Ben. I am not saying that is, what the expectation is for Martavis Bryant. But what I am saying is altogether, you have a lot of risk. And he is not worth saying you should draft him as the 20th wide receiver off the board, which is his ADP. You have injury risk, you have suspension risk, you have too many mouths to feed risk, and you have Big Ben injury risk, although I will grant you this, maybe that is good for Martavis Bryant, because in the splits in 2015 between Big Ben and Landry Jones, it was a 10-point difference in favor of when Big Ben wasn't playing. So, Your Honor, I say the risk says he is a good draft pick when he's about the 30th wide receiver off the board. I rest my case.
I hope the court respects my brevity. Your Honor, what say you in this case?
The court rules in favor of the defendant.
All right. It's good to be the defendant.
That is
Yeah,
my
what is the
first
deal?
defeat in the history of fantasy court, and I don't like it. And I guess I needed to just reiterate my points 5 times in one argument.
Yeah, it works a lot. It works
Hey, listen,
very well.
before we continue into answering some of these key questions for 2017, look, I want to thank Pristine Auction. Now, in our fantasy drafts, I love getting shady. But when it comes to sports memorabilia, shady, don't cut it. I don't want a shady company. I want A+, Better Business Bureau. I want JSA certified merchandise, and I want to know that it's a company that I can trust and has integrity, and we know these guys, and they are great, and you need to go to pristineauction.com. Whether you want to go into the distant past and grab an autographed full-size Jim Kelly jersey as a Buffalo Bill fan, or you want to grab an Odell Beckham Jr. full-size helmet, which is sitting there on a daily auction right now, 10 hours to go, no reserve. Look, they have hundreds of daily auctions. They're the best place to get yourself stocked up and ready for the season. We are picking up jerseys. We are picking up sports memorabilia all the time for the studio, for our houses, for our homes. And I want you to check out pristineauction.com, all right? Pristine auction.com. When you sign up, which is completely free to browse the auctions, just let them know the Fantasy Footballers sent you.
And you also want to check out Stadium Goods. If you are a sneakerhead out there that loves to rock the coolest, the best, the most classic shoes, I have personally got 2 different pairs of shoes from Stadium Goods, the old Air Jordans, which are awesome, and my favorite, I got this Nike pair that's got, my wife and I call it Dragon Scale, because it's got like
they're
this.
Targaryen shoes.
They're awesome, but I've literally never in my life, gone around and had people talk about my shoes. I haven't been rocking that quality
You're
stuff.
normally wearing flip-flops, yeah.
Right, but man, I get stopped all the time. They got the gold-tipped laces. Look, Stadium Goods has over 100,000 options, and they're talking about the hard-to-find, super high-quality apparel that, some of this stuff you can't get anywhere else. So check out stadiumgoods.com to find rare and limited edition kicks, or check out their flagship store at 47 Howard Street in Soho, New York. For you sneakerheads shopping online, go to stadiumgoods.com and enter code FOOTBALLERS to get 10% off your first order. That's stadiumgoods.com and use the code FOOTBALLERS.
Yeah, the hardest part for me was knowing which pair to buy.
So many good shoes.
Because I just browsed it for like an hour.
Pro tip, put in your size first.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can see all the shoes they have for you.
All right, hey, Mike, you got those pipes ready? Always. It's a trick question.
Mailbag.
Yeah! Extra loud version.
Woo-hoo.
You're welcome. I was already ready for the voicemail questions in the mailbag section.
I see.
Hey, look, this show, we exist to help you win your league. And so if you have a question, you want to send them into the show, go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, click the Submit a Question button in the menu, and send them on in. And we try to answer them in our mailbag section of the show. You can also dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. We're going to kick off today's mailbag with a voicemail question. So, guys, let's get into it. Maybe.
Hold.
Hey guys, this is Tony from Maryland. Quick question for you. So which player that had the best preseason are you not too sold on? Which player do you think that he will not perform as well in the regular season than he did in the preseason? All right, thanks, guys.
That's a really good question. Is there somebody that stands out for you?
We talk up the players that do well, as in, keep an eye out on them, but which ones maybe are going to be overhyped? Chris Carson would be the guy for me. The reason why is not because I think he can't get it done or a lack of talent. It's because of the 2 guys in front of him. So you've got, D'Angelo Henderson, who I think showed flashes of brilliance, and the guys in front of him are injury-riddled risk, havens. But with
a risk haven.
Risk haven.
That's awesome.
But with Eddie Lacy and Thomas Rawls both having looked really good in preseason, I think Chris Carson is just a nice preseason story, and I doubt that he gets any run in the regular season.
That's a good one, and Prosise is still there and involved. So I'll go with another Chris, and this one's Chris Hogan. I think Chris Hogan is the one that you don't want to buy into the hype. I think Chris Hogan is a balloon that you fill up, and then as the season starts, you let it go, and it just slowly runs out of air. I just don't see those numbers replicating themselves on a consistent basis. I think he's going to make big plays, but there are a lot of wide receivers that will make big plays in that New England offense. So I would say Hogan is my guy for that question.
Sure. The guy I just was I'm like Jason.
Must answer with a Chris.
It has to be a Chris.
Oh, it has to be a Chris. What if it's starts with a C?
Oh, that's
good enough.
Yeah,
all right, I can give you two. Cameron Artis, Payne, and Corey Grant. These guys are just backups, but they're putting up gaudy fantasy-type numbers that you're like, oh, maybe, but they're buried on a depth chart. We did see Corey Grant flash at the final week of last year, but clearly the Jacksonville Jaguars were not having any of that because they took Leonard Fournette with a top 4 pick. So you got to – this is why we say watch the preseason. Don't box score hunt the preseason.
Yeah, those are good names. So let's grab another voicemail question.
Hey, guys, this is Anonymous from, I'm embarrassed to ask this still, but why does everybody hate on defenses so much when some of the better defenses can actually score you points? Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Anonymous, for asking the question that should be asked.
You only needed to be anonymous if you were asking about kickers.
Right. The reason that people hate on defenses is twofold. The first is because the changeover from year to year is very great.
That's the one I was going to mention. So I would just say, look, historically, when you look at the numbers, predicting repeating defenses that dominate, it's just not – it's not in the cards. Like, there are a few teams that have persisted year over year. Like, we know things about historically the Denver Broncos over the last few years. But a lot of the times you see premier defenses, there's a turnover in that top 10. So that would be one reason why people hate on defenses. You can't actually predict and draft them well unless you have one of the top 2 or something.
But
and then streaming against a positive matchup is just so much more beneficial for your team. I mean, you don't have to I was in a draft last night, and the people who wanted, I got to have the Broncos. I mean, they're drafting them 4 rounds before you should be drafting a defense. Meanwhile, I'm just going to play the waiver wire. I'm going to grab a team who's facing off against the Jets or the Browns, and you can have tremendous success that way.
I'm going to add to it and then let Jason speak.
Sure.
You may get to speak eventually.
I don't need to. You guys are bringing up great points.
Here's another reason that it's a problem. If you invest in a defense that scores a lot of points, you're just locked into that defense, and then all of a sudden you're starting. Look, Kansas City should be a pretty good D, but then you got to start in week 1 against New England. Do you want to do that?
Don't start Kansas City week 1.
No,
that's foolish.
So you get kind of stuck in that situation. I think if you draft them late, then you are setting in your mind the importance of rostering them, which gives you flexibility to stream at a better, without being locked in.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys said.
Well, I'm going to make a rule.
What you guys said at the end was basically the second point, which is you are going to succeed better by dropping your defense every week or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks whenever a matchup shift happens. So,
and I guess that adds to his point that they are important. It's just the way that you treat them, right? Like, they're very important. So planning ahead for your defenses, that's smart.
Yep.
But just locking in on one,
they're not a draft season victory. They are a week-to-week season victory. In season is when you win at the defensive position.
Hey, Judge Giamatti, any chance you want to change that last ruling on appeal, the Martavis one? I just want to stay undefeated.
All rulings are final.
Oh, okay.
No appellate court here.
Man. I had to try. All right, this one comes in off of Twitter from Mike Mullaney. He's a brand new commish. He has a very simple question. What's the perfect league setup?
Ooh.
Yeah, there's only one. There can be only one. Here would be my perfect league setup. 12 teams, half-point PPR. That, to me, is definitely the perfect of the PPR shift. 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 1 tight end, 1 quarterback, no kicker. Honestly, for me, I would get rid of D. I'm fine having it, but my perfect league, I would get rid of D, and I would go to 2 flex, and then 5 or 6 bench, and an IR.
All right. Another Twitter question from Shane. He says, from what you have seen of Treadwell so far this preseason, which he says is not much at all, is he at all worth a late round flyer? And look, I've watched Treadwell, and I do think he'll be involved in this offense, and I would probably say no to that question because it's just a matter of I'm not drafting him ahead of Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph, Cook. He's falling way down that list. So,
But Andy,
okay, yes.
Isn't Minnesota going to be a super high-powered offense?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
That's a good point.
Does the voice of public opinion really think that?
No, I guess not. I'm just trying to argue with Andy.
Look, Treadwell, maybe in a very deep league, maybe in a week-to-week matchup situation where you think that they're going to run it up or be in a high-scoring affair. But this is a team that wants to rest on its defense, and it's a team that has more reliable pass catchers outside of Treadwell.
16-team league only.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. It's hard too, right? Because it's like he was a first-round pick. This one comes in off of Twitter. What's the deal with CJ Prosise? Is he going to play? Is he roster-worthy? He asked for a Seinfeld voice.
That was a Seinfeld voice?
That was the Seinfeld cadence. Cadence.
All right. Yeah.
The deal with CJ Prosise is that the team is not confident he can stay healthy on a regular basis. And I'm very excited about what he could do if he was healthy. I think he fits right in with that kind of, the kind of excitement we have with the Danny Woodhead, the kind of excitement you have with the Tevin Coleman. Prosise should be the third down guy, but his health is what concerns me.
Yeah, it concerns all of us. It concerns the Seahawks because
concerns his
never been
his parents.
He hasn't been healthy, and he's had so many little nicks and
all the way back through college
Yeah.
too. It's a career-long thing with Prosise. The talent is undeniable. He could be one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league, but he just can't stay on the field.
All right, here's a great question from @msiegel57. David Carr faces a brutal schedule. Should I be worried of that carrying over to Michael Crabtree? Mike, you are the resident Crabtree lover.
And I took him in this draft that I was talking about last night over many of other options who I really, really like. And yes, to a point you should be concerned. But the nice thing about Crabtree in that offense is he's the possession guy. He is Carr trusts him. Derek Carr trusts Michael Crabtree. He has great hands. We have a proven track record now of multiple years of this connection. He is the go-to weapon in the red zone and the end zone. So it's not like he has to sit back and let Amari Cooper develop with the route. If they have to go short, they can go to Crabtree. If they have to go intermediate, they can go to Crabtree. So I'm not bringing him down, but there are certainly going to be some tough matchups where you may consider benching Crabtree, like the Denver.
Yeah, to speak to Derek Carr's schedule for a second, if you are in a league that drafts quarterbacks really late and you can get 2 quarterbacks late, I have since found Derek Carr and my guy Dak Prescott to be a really nice pairing that you can get those 2 guys in late rounds. I've done that personally in some best balls as well. The first 3 weeks, Derek Carr's got a great schedule. The Titans, the Jets, the Redskins. Those 3 weeks are really difficult for Dak, and then they kind of flip the rest of the way.
Ah, a very nice pairing. You want a nice pairing. They go well together.
It's very robust.
All right. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. This is not like breaking news. This is more like rumor mill. But there's talk of Tim.
Are we going into the bushes?
There's talk of Tim Hightower not making the roster in San Francisco.
Say what?
Well, because look, Matt Breida and Joe Williams are going to get a roster spot, and essentially, Carlos Hyde is, and Juszczyk involved in the passing game. So there's basically one spot for Hightower and Mostert, and so if
I believe that's pronounced ketchup.
Oh, not mustard.
Sorry.
Raheem. To be honest, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Raheem Mostert. Mustard.
Go with
Mr. Mustard. Colonel Mustard.
For
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
Colonel Mustard. I hope he makes the roster.
Stay out of the ballroom.
Yeah.
Stay out of the ballroom when you're around Colonel
You want to know what's
Mustard.
really funny is when you talked about who were we talking about basically getting lost on the field and showing up deep downfield yesterday?
Martavis.
No, it was
that was Kenny Stills.
The Kenny Stills.
Houdini.
I couldn't help but visualize the secret passageway in the game of Clue, where you end up. You just go in the passageway, you end up about 40 yards downfield. All right, digressing here.
Yes.
Tim Hightower, if he doesn't make the roster, are there fantasy implications there?
No.
Nope.
Okay, I didn't know if that made use check more interesting.
Oh, right. You're saying for the backups, but I mean, as much as I love Juszczyk and think that he's an excellent weapon. He's a great player. I'm not sure how much fantasy value he'll have, especially with these regular to small size leagues.
All right, here's a question from Alex. He said, ever think that you'll have time to discuss IDP, or you leave that to others?
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, we leave that to others. The three of us, just to be honest, we don't really enjoy it.
Right.
And if we don't enjoy it, we're not going to
Or play it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. We're
Yeah,
not going
exactly.
to play in IDP leagues, and we're not going to give the best advice if that's the case. We love fantasy football. We play. We try to win. We aren't doing this because it's just a job, and we wouldn't be doing you a good service if it was IDP.
Yep. All right. Ridiculous has a question for us. He says, new to FAAB, what are the best things that you can tell me to help give me a boost above my league mates? So maybe explain what FAAB is and then answer that one.
Free agent acquisition budget. So instead of just a waiver priority where, last place gets first dibs and then so on, everyone makes a blind bid on the players to pick them up off of waivers.
Week to week.
Week to week. So, you've got a $100 budget, or let's say, and so does everybody else. And, week one, you bid $5 on someone and someone else bids $4, you get them. Some tips, definitely always put in $0 bids on guys that you don't think are going to get through the bidding process, because it blows us away. But all the time, the guy that you just expect everyone's throwing $30 on,
because some people just they go defeated before the bid even goes in.
Right. Just put in the cheap bids on guys if you don't want to pay up, because you might get them. You might not. I would save some dollars for the playoffs. Make sure that, mid-season or whatever, mid-late season, cap yourself at 5. Act like if you got $5 left, you're at 0, unless you absolutely need that to make the playoffs. Any other tips?
Yeah, I do think there are individual strategies when it comes to FAAB. There's not like a global, you're better if you do X. I mean, I take the strategy that if there's a player that's on waivers that I know will contribute year-round, so a lot of times that ends up being an injury situation where somebody steps up into that role. Sometimes it's a guy coming off of an injury that everybody wants to bid on. If I think they're going to be a contributor year-round, not just a 1 or 2 week rental, I like going and buying that, because I don't know how many more times those players are going to come up on FAAB, on waivers. So a lot of the times I'll invest quite a bit on 1 or 2 players in the beginning of the year, because I want that contributor for the rest of the year, just looking at it like an extra, I don't know, as certain players drop in there, it's like grabbing a 3rd-round draft pick or a 2nd-round draft pick for your FAAB budget. So I like spending a lot early, but I think there are a lot of different strategies that are out there. All right. Love the show, says Keith in Thomas. So there you go. That's a place.
We got
I don't know where
person
Thomas
and a
is.
person problem.
Help draft. He said we helped him draft his best team ever this year. He took Adam Thielen with his last pick, and he scrubbed the waiver wire and saw that Jordan Matthews is a free agent. Does he drop Thielen for Matthews or stay the course? His other wide receivers are Cooks, Baldwin, Crowder, and Fitzgerald. My answer is I would stick with Thielen. I am falling in love with Adam Thielen.
I think
This is close for me.
Yeah, it's close, but I see these guys as kind of different. If you need a plug and play, like it turns out this last roster spot that you're drafting, you're going to need him because you're weak at wide receiver and you got to plug him in every week. I'm more confident in Jordan Matthews' targets because he's going to be presumably the number 1 on that offense. I'm not so much in Adam Thielen, but Adam Thielen, if he does blow up, I think will have a higher ceiling than Jordan Matthews because of touchdown potential.
It's been a while, Jay, and I don't know how confident you are, but I love the idea of not being on the side of Jordan Matthews in a water bet.
Mm-hmm.
So would you care to take an Adam Thielen versus Jordan Matthews end-of-season water bet?
No, I love Adam Thielen, and I think Adam Thielen's ceiling is higher, which I just said, so that would be weird to take that water bet. But I will make you a water bet that Jordan Matthews will finish, let's say, 90 receptions if he plays 16.
Oh, gosh, give me that.
Wow. What have you done?
No, he tricked me
Water
there.
bet.
He tricked me there because he said if he plays 16.
Yeah.
So this bet
could
has
be
no
over-
chance of being paid out.
It could be over week 1.
I was
there you
just
go.
thinking of this, though. I mean, there are a lot of new listeners to the show, and a lot of them don't know what in the world we're doing when you hear that. So a water bet, we have a wheel of water that we spin around the office, and basically we make bets all the time, and it has like 20 different ways that you get a cup of water thrown on you, and they're all humiliating, and it's great. And if you want to do it, grab the app. It's completely free, the Wheel of Water app on iTunes or Android, and then send us your videos when you pay out these
so
bets.
much fun.
It's even better when it gets cold outside because we get listeners that have done a bet over the weekend, and then all of a sudden they're trudging in the snow and their friends are giving them hypothermia. It's great. Hypothermia is great. Isn't that right, Brooks? All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Sully. He says, do you think Alfred Morris is worth grabbing late to handcuff Eazy-E if you missed out on Run DMC and someone reached for him? That's a really good question. I want with all my heart to say yes because my eyes told me in the preseason that Alfred Morris looked really good. He was one of those players. I kept coming in here after the weekend and telling Mike, like, I think Alfred Morris looks really good. Like, it's strange. I expected him to be slow. He looked fast to me, but probably not.
He's the handcuff to the handcuff, and no thank you.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Alfred Morris was a great story, sensational rookie year, pretty solid sophomore year, but I think the dream is done of the time of Alfred Morris being a really actual usable fantasy
If
guy.
he got the role, he would be great.
Yeah.
But he's not going to get the role. He's going to be a 5-touch-a-game guy, not worth drafting.
All right, this is a great question because I'm curious your answer, both of you. In a league, this one's from Martin Mickelwain. In a league that has 5 bonus points for 50-plus yard touchdown runs or receptions, how much does that change the value of home run players like Cooks, Djax, Devontae Parker versus players like Mike Evans or Des Bryant? I think that's a very interesting question because that's a big-time bonus.
Yeah, but that's a huge touchdown. That's a huge touchdown.
That's a huge-
50 yards. I mean, no, it's not moving things. I mean, maybe.
You don't think a
maybe
guy like Brandon Cooks?
Brandon Cooks would be moved because I've seen
Deshaun Jackson?
I've seen
I was
Tom
gonna
Brady
say,
throw so many bomb
Deshaun-
touchdowns.
Does Deshaun catch anything under a 50-yard
Right.
touchdown?
Deshaun Jackson, I think Kenny Stills is the type where that's pretty much all he does is just sneak for those 50-yard bombs.
but
there's
then
a
if
few
he
players.
doesn't give it to you, when he goes off, that all it means is he's going to go full hand.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't
that's
change.
usually how those players are. Like if you're playing
Yeah.
Deshaun Jackson, you're usually getting a good game or getting not enough to help you. So if you were going to start him anyways, it just bumps him up slightly. But I would not change my draft order
Right.
other than when I'm at that place where Deshaun Jackson's ADP already is, that might make me go, I'm taking him.
Yes.
All right, keep 2 wide receivers on the roster. Chris Hogan, Ted Ginn, Taylor Gabriel, Adam Thielen. That is an easy one for me. I'm going Ginn and Thielen.
Ginn is in for sure on this list, and
So Chris Hogan, Taylor Gabriel, and Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
who you got, Jay?
Man, this is really tough. I mean, all 4 are very similar. I think I would take Adam Thielen and Ted Ginn.
Okay.
I think I would go Ginn and
Ginn and
Hogan.
Hogan.
I'd go
I'm
Hogan.
so
I'll
close
take the
between
flyer
Hogan and Thielen.
Because look, and I'm with Andy. I like Adam Thielen. I think that there's great potential there, but I buy that there's potential for Hogan. So this is a late round flyer. I'm going to see what Hogan can do.
Yeah.
Andy
Did you
is
see that?
Andy is freaking out over here.
There was a big old bug on my desk.
Oh, what kind of bug?
It was a beetle.
Oh,
It was a big old beetle. I just flicked it to the moon. But when I looked down, I was like, Brooks saw me.
I saw your reaction. Yeah,
Oh,
just-
I don't want to see things crawling across my keyboard.
it's like I don't know what's
Unless
happening
they're
with
fantasy
Andy.
points.
I'm switching off his can.
Fantasy
Switching the can.
points.
Hey, listen, we're gonna do a live show on Monday. So if you're in the Southwest region,
Get
if
there.
you're near Phoenix, go to ballerslive.com, grab a ticket, come hang out with us. We're gonna do a huge mailbag at the end of that episode. You can ask stuff live on the podcast, and this will be a live podcast. So what you will come to will be an actual podcast that goes live on the show
You'll
the
get
next day.
You'll get a mic. You can ask a question. You can hear yourself on the show.
So
Yeah,
no,
and come
so
hang
no
out.
potty mouths.
Yeah.
I'm warning you.
So come hang out with us, ballerslive.com. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you are interested in some sweet DFS action, don't forget, playdraft.com/ballers. Everybody that we have played with on the app, they absolutely love it. It's a fun way to do it, and we all love drafting. So check out playdraft.com/ballers, and do not miss the MVP episode tomorrow because it's going to be great. There's going to be a ton of experts on it. And look, we'll see if we agree on some of these MVP picks or not. I've got an idea for mine.
All right. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.